Security! This girl is a shoplifter. Get her out! 16-year-old Maya Richardson stood frozen, clutching $300 in cash and the silk scarf she had intended to buy her mother for her birthday. Her simple jeans and sneakers suddenly looked like a costume in the marble-floored luxury store. "Look at her," the manager continued, his voice cutting through the clamor of the Saturday afternoon. "She doesn't belong here." Maya clutched the money. "I'm trying to buy my mom a birthday present." The manager's laugh was as sharp as broken glass. Of course. These real-life stories happen every day across America. Black stories like Maya's remind us that the most touching stories often come from the ugliest moments. But this remarkable story, one of the most powerful life stories you'll ever hear, is just beginning. Have you ever been judged by your appearance before someone heard your voice? The manager's name tag read Jessica Whitmore, store manager. She crossed her arms, blocking Maya's path to the register like a human barricade. Her designer blazer and perfectly styled blonde hair screamed authority in this temple of luxury retail. "People like you come in here all the time causing trouble," Jessica announced, her voice deliberately loud enough to turn heads. 3 customers stopped browsing. 2 pulled out phones. Maya felt heat rise in her cheeks but kept her voice steady. "I'd like to purchase this scarf, please." "That money is probably stolen anyway." Jessica's eyes swept Maya from head to toe with practiced disdain. "I'm calling the police before you grab something and run." The timestamp appeared in Maya's mind, a habit from her Stanford pre-law program. 8 minutes to de-escalate. 8 minutes before this became something else entirely. "Ma'am, I understand your concern," Maya said, pulling out her wallet with careful movements. "But I have proper identification and legitimate funds." A customer near the jewelry counter had started live streaming. The notification chime was soft, but Maya caught it. Social media moved fast, faster than police response times. Jessica waved her hand dismissively. "Save it. I've seen this scam before." She turned to address the growing audience of customers. "They send in young ones now. Think we won't suspect anything." Maya's backpack slipped slightly, revealing the corner of a first-class boarding pass from yesterday's flight back to San Francisco. LAX to SFO. Business travelers didn't typically shoplift scarves, but Jessica wasn't looking for logic. "I can pay with my credit card if cash makes you uncomfortable," Maya offered, retrieving a Platinum American Express from her wallet. The metal card caught the boutique's crystal lighting. Jessica scoffed. "Probably stolen, too. You think I was born yesterday?" The live stream viewer count was climbing in the corner of the filming customer's screen. 50 viewers, then 100. The comment section filled with shocked emojis and angry reactions. An elderly black woman near the perfume counter caught Maya's eye and shook her head knowingly. She'd lived this story before, in different stores, different decades. The look on her face said everything. "Stay calm, baby. Don't give them what they want." Maya's phone buzzed with a text from her assistant at Richardson Holdings. "Emergency board meeting moved to 3:30 p.m. Need your notes on the Westfield acquisition." She glanced at her watch. A graduation gift from her mother, understated but expensive. Swiss-made. The kind of detail that would matter later. "I'm going to need you to step away from the merchandise," Jessica commanded, gesturing for Maya to move toward the store's entrance. "And keep your hands where I can see them." 2 more customers had joined the impromptu audience. One was discreetly filming while pretending to examine handbags. Another was typing furiously on her phone, likely sharing the scene across multiple social platforms. Maya set the scarf carefully on the glass counter. "I understand you're doing what you think is right, but you're making a mistake that's going to cost more than you realize." Something in Maya's tone made Jessica pause, not defiance, that she could handle. This was something else. Certainty. The kind that came from knowledge Jessica didn't possess. The security guard approached hesitantly. Marcus had worked retail security for 12 years and had developed instincts about these situations. Something felt off. The girl's posture was too composed, her responses too measured. People who were actually guilty got angry or ran. They didn't discuss consequences in calm, analytical voices. "Maybe we should just let her buy the scarf," Marcus suggested quietly. Jessica whirled on him. "Are you questioning my judgment? I'm the manager here." The live stream had reached 500 viewers. Comments were flooding in faster than anyone could read them. "This is disgusting discrimination. Someone help this girl. I'm sharing this everywhere. This store about to learn." Maya quietly dialed a number on her phone. The call connected immediately. "Richardson Holdings, Executive Office. Hi, this is Maya. I need legal and PR at the Westfield location. Now." Jessica's face shifted from smug confidence to confusion. "Richardson? As in Richardson Holdings?" The voice on Maya's phone was crisp, professional. "Right away, Miss Richardson. Should I notify your mother?" Maya glanced at her watch again. "No need. She's in the acquisition meeting. I'll handle this." The live stream exploded. Viewer count jumped to 2,000 in seconds. The chat became a blur of recognition and shock. "OMG, she's that Richardson. Her mom owns half of downtown. This manager is so fired." Jessica's perfectly applied makeup couldn't hide the color draining from her face. You're Dr. Richardson's daughter?" Maya slipped her phone back into her pocket. "Richardson Holdings owns 60% of this shopping center. We acquired it last quarter during the Westfield expansion. I'm on the Youth Advisory Board." The silk scarf suddenly seemed very small and insignificant on the glass counter between them. Maya's phone buzzed again. This time she smiled at the message. "Mom's meeting ended early. 5 minutes out." She looked directly at Jessica for the first time since entering the store. "Actually, this timing might work perfectly." The assistant manager appeared like a shark sensing blood in the water. Derek Morrison had been watching from the stockroom when he heard his store manager's raised voice. Now he stood beside Jessica, arms crossed, designer ties straightened for the impromptu confrontation. "What's the situation here?" Derek's voice carried the authority of someone accustomed to being obeyed. Jessica's confidence returned with backup. "Suspected shoplifter. She's claiming to be some Richardson, but look at her." She gestured dismissively at Maya's simple outfit. "Does she look like she belongs in Nordstrom?" Derek studied Maya with calculating eyes. "You're saying you're related to Richardson Holdings?" "I'm Dr. Vanessa Richardson's daughter," Maya replied calmly. "Maya Richardson." "Sure you are." Derek's laugh was harsh. "And I'm Jeff Bezos' son. We need to search your bag before the police arrive." The live stream viewer count had exploded beyond 2,000. Comments streamed past like a digital waterfall of outrage and disbelief. 3 different customers were now filming from various angles, creating a multi-camera documentation of the unfolding drama. Maya stepped back slightly. "I don't consent to a search without legal representation present." "Legal representation?" Jessica scoffed. Listen to her trying to sound important. But Derek's expression had shifted. Maya's language was too precise, too confident. People who threatened legal action usually knew something about the law. Still, he'd come too far to back down now. "Corporate security is en route," Derek announced to the growing audience. "We take theft very seriously here." The elderly black customer near perfumes had moved closer. Her eyes met Maya's briefly, offering silent solidarity. 2 other black shoppers had gravitated toward the scene, their presence adding unspoken weight to the moment. Maya's phone rang. The caller ID showed her Stanford study group. She declined the call, but not before Derek noticed the prestigious university's name on her screen. "Stanford?" Derek's voice held a note of uncertainty. "Pre-law program," Maya confirmed. "We're studying discrimination cases this semester. Fascinating how they develop." Jessica felt the conversation slipping away from her control. The live stream audience was growing exponentially, and the comments weren't favorable. Someone had already identified the store location and was posting corporate contact information. "I don't care if you're studying at Harvard," Jessica snapped. "You're still a thief." "Actually," Maya said quietly. I'm studying at Stanford. Harvard is where my mother did her MBA before founding Richardson Holdings. The security guard, Marcus, approached Derek. Sir, maybe we should reconsider. The crowd is getting larger, and there's a lot of filming happening. Derek waved him off. We follow protocol. No exceptions. But protocol was becoming a luxury Derek couldn't afford. The live stream had reached 5,000 viewers. Someone had created a hashtag, #Nordstrom Discrimination. Another viewer had found Dr. Vanessa Richardson's Forbes profile and was sharing it in the comments. Maya checked her messages. Her Stanford roommate had sent a screenshot. Girl, you're trending on Twitter. What's happening? The irony wasn't lost on Maya. She'd planned a simple shopping trip before returning to Palo Alto. Now she was inadvertently conducting a real-time case study in corporate discrimination law. Look, Derek said, attempting a more reasonable tone. If you really are who you say you are, then you'll understand we have to protect our merchandise. Nothing personal. Everything about this is personal, Maya replied. You've made it personal by profiling me based on appearance, age, and race. That's not protocol, that's prejudice. Jessica's face flushed red. How dare you play the race card? I'm not playing anything, Maya said evenly. I'm stating legal facts. Your actions are being documented by multiple witnesses and broadcast to thousands of people. Each word you speak becomes evidence. The police sirens grew louder outside. Through the storefront windows, Maya could see the patrol car pulling into the mall's parking area. 2 officers emerged, their expressions already suggesting they'd rather be anywhere else. Derek straightened his tie again, preparing for the officer's arrival. We'll let the police sort this out. Maya's phone buzzed with another message. This one made her smile slightly. Parking now. Conference room A reserved. Legal team standing by. The officers entered the store, their presence immediately shifting the atmosphere. Officer Rodriguez looked tired, like someone who'd responded to too many calls like this. Officer Chen appeared younger, more alert, scanning the crowd of filming customers with obvious discomfort. Someone called about a theft in progress? Rodriguez asked. Jessica stepped forward eagerly. Yes, officer. This girl was attempting to steal merchandise. We caught her before she could leave the store. Officer Chen noticed the phones pointed in their direction. Ma'am, can you turn off the live stream, please? The customer filming shook her head. This is public space. I have every right to record. Rodriguez sighed. He'd seen this scenario play out on social media too many times. Young person, usually black or Latino, accused of theft by retail employees, situation escalates unnecessarily. Half these calls ended up as viral videos making the department look bad. What's your name, miss? Rodriguez asked Maya gently. Maya Richardson. I came in to buy a gift for my mother's birthday. She gestured toward the silk scarf still sitting on the counter. I was attempting to make a purchase when the manager accused me of shoplifting. She's lying, Jessica insisted. People like her come in here all the time. People like her? Officer Chen interrupted, his voice sharp. He'd grown up in this neighborhood. He knew discrimination when he heard it. Rodriguez studied Maya's demeanor. Calm, articulate, no signs of deception or nervousness that typically accompanied actual theft. He glanced at the expensive watch on her wrist, the quality backpack, the platinum credit card she held ready for payment. Do you have identification? He asked Maya. She produced her Stanford student ID and California driver's license. Both clearly displayed her name, Maya V. Richardson. Derek's face had gone pale. He pulled out his phone and Googled Richardson Holdings CEO. Dr. Vanessa Richardson's photo appeared immediately, a distinguished black woman who bore an unmistakable resemblance to Maya. Officer, Derek stammered, there may have been a misunderstanding. Rodriguez looked at the live stream viewer count over the customer's shoulder. 8,000 people watching. The department's social media manager was probably already fielding angry calls. I think there has been, he agreed. Maya's phone rang. She glanced at the caller ID. Mom. Office. "Excuse me," she said politely to the officers. "I should take this." She answered with speakerphone activated, her voice carrying clearly across the now silent store. "Hi, Maya. I just got out of the Westfield acquisition meeting. I'm 5 minutes from the mall. How did the shopping go?" Maya looked directly at Jessica. "It's been educational, Mom. I'm still at Nordstrom, with some new friends." The silence in the store was absolute. Dr. Vanessa Richardson walked through Nordstrom's entrance like she owned the place, which technically she did. At 45, she commanded attention without demanding it. Her charcoal business suit was perfectly tailored, her natural hair styled in an elegant twist that spoke of confidence earned through decades of breaking barriers. The Hermes briefcase in her hand had seen boardrooms from Silicon Valley to Wall Street. Every conversation in the store stopped. Jessica's mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. Derek's carefully maintained composure cracked completely. Even the officers straightened unconsciously in the presence of someone who radiated executive authority. Maya smiled genuinely for the first time since entering the store. "Hi, Mom." Dr. Richardson surveyed the scene with the analytical eye of someone accustomed to assessing crisis situations. Multiple cameras pointed at her daughter. 2 police officers standing awkwardly near the counter. Store management looking like they wanted to disappear into the marble floor. "Maya," she said calmly, "would you mind explaining what's happening here?" The livestream viewer count had exploded past 15,000. Comments flooded in at impossible speed. "That's Dr. Vanessa Richardson, CEO of Richardson Holdings. These people are so screwed. She's worth like 500 million. Maya's voice remained steady as she recounted the events. "I came in to buy you a birthday gift. The manager accused me of shoplifting based on my appearance. When I tried to pay, she refused my money and called the police." Dr. Richardson's expression didn't change, but something shifted in her posture. A subtle straightening that suggested controlled fury. "I see," she said quietly. "And how long has this been going on?" "About 25 minutes. Officer Rodriguez cleared his throat. "Ma'am, if you're the young lady's mother, we can resolve this quickly. There's clearly been a misunderstanding." Dr. Richardson turned her attention to the officers. "Officers Rodriguez and Chen, according to your name tags. I appreciate your professionalism, but I'm concerned this isn't a misunderstanding at all." She opened her briefcase and withdrew a tablet. Her fingers moved across the screen with practiced efficiency. "Richardson Holdings acquired a controlling interest in this Westfield property 3 months ago. The purchase price was $47 million. Our portfolio now includes 63 retail properties across 7 states. Derek felt his career prospects evaporating in real time. Dr. Richardson continued, her voice conversational but carrying the weight of absolute authority. "As part of our due diligence, we reviewed customer service records for all tenants. Nordstrom showed concerning patterns of discrimination complaints. 23 filed in the past 18 months. 19 unresolved." She turned to Jessica directly. "Ms. Whitmore, isn't it? According to your personnel file, you've been the subject of 4 separate customer complaints alleging racial profiling. This is the first time it's been documented on livestream." Jessica's face had gone from red to white to an alarming shade of green. I was just following protocol." "Whose protocol?" Dr. Richardson asked. "Show me the company policy that instructs employees to refuse legal tender from customers based on their appearance." Silence. Maya watched her mother work with quiet admiration. This was Dr. Vanessa Richardson in her element, dismantling flawed systems with surgical precision and unshakable facts. "Mom," Maya said, "I should mention that the entire interaction has been live-streamed. Current viewer count is approaching 20,000. Dr. Richardson glanced at the customer still filming. "Thank you for documenting this. Transparency is crucial for accountability." She returned her attention to the store managers. Derek Morrison, Assistant Manager, MBA from USC, 3 years retail management experience. Salary approximately $65,000 annually. Derek nodded numbly, wondering how she knew his salary. Jessica Whitmore, store manager. 7 years with Nordstrom, promoted to management 2 years ago. Compensation package roughly $85,000 including bonuses. Dr. Richardson's research was thorough and devastating. Now let me share some numbers that might interest you. This Nordstrom location generates approximately $3.2 million in annual revenue. Your lease with Richardson Holdings is up for renewal in 60 days. The renewal rate depends largely on tenant performance and community relations. The implications hung in the air like a sword. Officer Chen had been quietly Googling Dr. Richardson during her presentation. His phone screen showed Forbes articles, business profiles, and Richardson Holdings' impressive portfolio. This wasn't just a wealthy parent defending her child. This was a major business leader documenting corporate discrimination in real time. "Ma'am," Rodriguez said carefully, "do you want to file a formal complaint?" Dr. Richardson considered the question. "That depends on how this situation is resolved. Maya, what would constitute appropriate resolution in your opinion?" Maya had been thinking about this question since the moment Jessica first pointed at her. Her Stanford professors would be proud of her analysis. Immediate termination of Ms. Whitmore for violation of corporate anti-discrimination policies. Mandatory bias training for all staff, implementation of transparent complaint procedures, and a formal corporate apology acknowledging the discriminatory behavior. Derek stepped forward desperately. "Dr. Richardson, surely we can work something out privately. No need to involve corporate—" "Mr. Morrison," Dr. Richardson interrupted. "Corporate is already involved. I am corporate. Richardson Holdings doesn't just own this building. We're investigating acquisition of the entire Nordstrom chain. This incident will factor significantly into our due diligence assessment." The live stream chat exploded with new information as viewers researched the connection. Richardson Holdings looking to buy Nordstrom. This could kill the deal. Stock price about to tank. Maya's phone buzzed with a text from her Stanford study group. "You're literally writing tomorrow's business ethics case study in real time." Dr. Richardson checked her watch, the same Swiss brand as Maya's, but with additional complications that suggested even greater expense. "I have a board call in 30 minutes, she announced. "Richardson Holdings' leadership team is expecting my recommendation on the Nordstrom acquisition. The current situation will obviously influence that recommendation." Jessica finally found her voice. "Please, Dr. Richardson, I made a mistake. I'm sorry. I didn't know." "You didn't know what?" Dr. Richardson's tone remained calm, but her words carried steel. "You didn't know my daughter was human? You didn't know she deserved basic respect? Or you didn't know there would be consequences for discrimination?" The question hung unanswered. Dr. Richardson opened her tablet again. "Maya, your Stanford professors would be interested in this case study. Real-time documentation of corporate discrimination, social media amplification, and immediate stakeholder response." She turned to address the filming customer directly. "You've provided valuable documentation of this incident. Would you be willing to provide a statement for our legal team?" The customer nodded eagerly. "Absolutely. This was completely unprofessional." Dr. Richardson's phone rang. She glanced at the caller ID. "Richardson Holdings, Legal Department." "Perfect timing," she said, answering on speaker. "Janet, I need you to prepare documentation for a discrimination incident at our Westfield Nordstrom property, full legal review and corporate response protocol." The voice on the phone was crisp and professional. "Understood, Dr. Richardson. Should I involve PR and media relations?" "Yes." "And prepare talking points for the board call. This incident may impact our Nordstrom acquisition timeline." Derek made one last desperate attempt. "Dr. Richardson, please. We can resolve this internally. No need for legal involvement. Dr." Richardson closed her phone and looked at Derek with something approaching pity. "Mr. Morrison, this became a legal matter the moment your manager chose discrimination over customer service. The documentation is already complete thanks to social media." She gestured toward the live stream, which had now reached 25,000 viewers and was trending on multiple platforms. "Maya," she said, turning to her daughter. "Would you like to complete your purchase? I believe you came here to buy a birthday gift." Maya picked up the silk scarf from the counter where it had been sitting throughout the entire confrontation. "Actually, Mom, I think I'd like to shop somewhere that values all their customers." Dr. Richardson smiled proudly. "Excellent decision. There's a lovely boutique on the 3rd floor. Black-owned business. Their customer service is exceptional." As they turned to leave, Dr. Richardson addressed the officers one final time. "Thank you for your professionalism. Your department will receive commendation letters for handling this appropriately." To Jessica and Derek, she said simply, "You'll be hearing from our legal team." The live stream continued as mother and daughter walked out of Nordstrom together, leaving behind a store full of stunned employees and 25,000 viewers who had just witnessed corporate accountability in action. The silk scarf remained on the counter, unpurchased, and suddenly symbolic of much more than a birthday gift. Maya paused at the store entrance and turned back one final time. The cameras were still rolling, the officers still taking notes, and Jessica looked like she might faint. "For the record," Maya said clearly, addressing the live stream audience directly, "this isn't about money or power, it's about dignity. Every person deserves to shop, work, and exist without being judged by their appearance." Dr. Richardson placed a gentle hand on her daughter's shoulder. "Maya's right. Richardson Holdings believes in accountability, not revenge. But we also believe in consequences for discrimination." She addressed the store directly. "You have 24 hours to develop a comprehensive response plan. Our legal team will review your proposals and determine next steps." The finality in her voice left no room for negotiation. As they walked through the mall, Dr. Richardson's phone buzzed with notifications. The Richardson Holdings stock price was trending upward as investors responded positively to the company's decisive stand against discrimination. Social media was already calling it the Nordstrom accountability moment. Maya checked her own phone. Her Stanford classmates were analyzing the legal implications in their group chat. Her professors would definitely want to discuss this in tomorrow's ethics seminar. "Mom," Maya said as they approached the black-owned boutique, "thank you for not just fixing this quietly." Dr. Richardson smiled. "Quiet fixes don't change systems, sweetheart. Sometimes you need 25,000 witnesses to create real accountability." The boutique owner, a young black woman about Maya's age, looked up as they entered. She'd been watching the live stream on her tablet. "Are you Maya Richardson?" she asked excitedly. Maya nodded, suddenly feeling the weight of unexpected fame. "Girl, you just changed everything," the boutique owner said. "I've been dealing with discrimination from other stores in this mall for 2 years. You just gave every black business owner here a voice." Dr. Richardson extended her hand. "I'm Vanessa Richardson. I'd like to discuss expanding your business into our other properties." And that's how a simple shopping trip for a birthday gift became a catalyst for systemic change across an entire retail empire. Nordstrom's emergency conference room had never hosted a meeting quite like this one. Within 30 minutes of leaving the store floor, Dr. Richardson sat at the head of a polished mahogany table, her tablet displaying real-time data that would determine the fate of careers and corporate policies. Maya sat beside her mother, taking notes on her laptop with the precision of a Stanford pre-law student documenting a landmark case. Across from them, Jessica and Derek fidgeted like defendants awaiting sentencing. Nordstrom's regional manager, Patricia Hoffman, had arrived within 20 minutes of Dr. Richardson's call. Her usually pristine composure showed cracks of genuine panic. The live stream had been shared across LinkedIn, Twitter, and TikTok. Nordstrom's corporate communications team was already fielding media inquiries. "Let me establish this current situation," Dr. Richardson began, her voice carrying the authority of someone accustomed to boardrooms where billion-dollar decisions were made. "Richardson Holdings owns 63% of this property. We're currently conducting due diligence for a potential acquisition of Nordstrom's retail operations. Today's incident represents a critical inflection point in that process." She tapped her tablet screen. Numbers and charts appeared on the conference room's wall display. This location generates $3.2 million annually. Store 4247 ranks 15th out of 23 locations in customer satisfaction metrics. More concerning, discrimination complaints have increased 47% over 18 months. Patricia's face had gone pale. Dr. Richardson, we take these complaints very seriously. Do you? Maya interrupted, consulting her notes. According to public records, 19 of 23 complaints were marked unsubstantiated without meaningful investigation. Average resolution time, 6 minutes. Does that suggest serious consideration? Patricia realized she was facing not just an angry parent, but a CEO and her legally trained daughter conducting a real-time audit of corporate failures. Dr. Richardson continued her presentation. Richardson Holdings' investment philosophy prioritizes companies with strong ESG metrics. Environmental, social, and governance factors directly correlate with long-term profitability. Today's incident suggests significant governance deficiencies. She turned to Jessica directly. Ms. Whitmore, explain your decision-making process when you encountered my daughter. Jessica's voice shook. I thought she looked suspicious. Define suspicious. She was young and her clothes were casual. Maya looked up from her laptop. I was wearing jeans and sneakers purchased at this exact Nordstrom location. My backpack is Patagonia, retail price $200. My watch is Omega, retail price $4,000. Which element suggested criminal intent? The silence stretched uncomfortably. Dr. Richardson opened another screen on her tablet. Let's examine the financial implications. Richardson Holdings manages pension funds for over 40,000 employees. Our investment decisions impact retirement security for teachers, firefighters, and municipal workers. When we invest in companies, we expect ethical standards that align with our fiduciary responsibilities. She gestured to the wall display where new data appeared. Nordstrom's current market capitalization, $8.7 billion. Richardson Holdings was prepared to invest $1.2 billion in acquisition and expansion. Today's incident raises questions about cultural alignment with our investment criteria. Patricia leaned forward desperately. Dr. Richardson, surely one incident doesn't represent our entire company culture. One documented incident, Maya corrected. With 25,000 witnesses and climbing, the hashtag #Nordstrom discrimination is trending number 3 nationally. Your stock price has dropped 2% in the past hour. Dr. Richardson's phone buzzed. She glanced at the message and shared its contents. Our legal team has completed preliminary analysis. Ms. Whitmore's actions constitute clear violations of federal civil rights statutes. Mr. Morrison's support of those actions creates corporate liability under vicarious responsibility doctrine. Derek finally spoke. What can we do to fix this? Excellent question, Dr. Richardson replied. Maya, would you present your recommendations? Maya opened her laptop fully. Her months at Stanford studying corporate law and social justice had prepared her for exactly this moment. Immediate actions, to be completed within 72 hours. First, termination of Ms. Whitmore for violation of corporate anti-discrimination policies. Second, formal written apology from Nordstrom Corporate acknowledging discriminatory behavior. Third, implementation of bias reporting system accessible via QR codes throughout all stores. She scrolled to her next page. Short-term changes to be completed within 30 days. Mandatory bias training for all customer-facing employees with quarterly refreshers. Partnership with diversity consulting firm for policy review. Establishment of customer advocate position to investigate discrimination complaints independently. Patricia was taking frantic notes. Maya continued. Long-term systemic changes to be completed within 90 days. Diverse hiring initiative requiring 40% BIPOC representation in management positions. Anonymous bias reporting app connected to external monitoring service. Quarterly community listening sessions in partnership with local NOACP chapters. Richardson smiled proudly at her daughter's thorough analysis. Maya's recommendations represent minimum acceptable standards for continued business relationship with Richardson Holdings. She opened a new document on her tablet. Alternative scenario: Nordstrom declines these recommendations. Richardson Holdings withdraws from acquisition negotiations. We share today's documentation with institutional investors, managing $300 billion in assets. Many of those investors have environmental, social, and governance mandates that preclude investment in companies with demonstrated discrimination patterns. The mathematical precision of consequences was devastating. Patricia's phone buzzed with an urgent call from Nordstrom's Seattle headquarters. The CEO was demanding immediate briefing on the Richardson situation. Social media mentions had exploded past 50,000. Cable news networks were picking up the story. "Dr. Richardson," Patricia said carefully, "I'm authorized to accept your terms immediately, but I need assurance that Richardson Holdings will continue considering the acquisition." Dr. Richardson exchanged glances with Maya. "Our investment decisions are based on data, not emotion. Nordstrom's response to this crisis will determine whether your company aligns with our investment criteria." She stood, signaling the meeting's conclusion. "You have 48 hours to present a comprehensive implementation plan. Our legal team will review compliance metrics weekly. Maya will serve as youth advisor during the transition period." Maya closed her laptop. "I'll also be writing my senior thesis on corporate accountability in retail discrimination. This case study will be submitted to Harvard Business Review for publication." Patricia nodded numbly. The implications were staggering. Maya's research would be read by business leaders worldwide, making Nordstrom either a cautionary tale or a transformation success story. Dr. Richardson gathered her materials with the efficiency of someone accustomed to changing corporate cultures through strategic pressure. "Ms. Hoffman, you'll have my executive assistant's contact information within the hour. All progress reports should be submitted through official channels." She turned to Jessica and Derek one final time. "This experience should serve as education for your next career opportunities. Understanding bias isn't just moral imperative, it's business necessity." As they prepared to leave, Maya's phone chimed with a notification. Her Stanford study group had created a shared document analyzing the legal precedents established by today's events. Her constitutional law professor wanted to feature the case in next semester's curriculum. "Mom," Maya said quietly, "do you think this will actually change anything?" Richardson looked at her daughter with deep respect. "Sweetheart, you just demonstrated that accountability isn't about revenge. It's about systems change. 25,000 people watched you handle discrimination with grace and intelligence. That's how culture shifts, one documented interaction at a time." Patricia stood uncertainly. "Dr. Richardson, thank you for giving us the opportunity to make this right." "Don't thank me," Dr. Richardson replied. "Thank Maya. She could have responded with anger or legal threats. Instead, she chose education and transformation. That's the kind of leadership Richardson Holdings invests in." Maya packed her laptop, already thinking about her next classes at Stanford. This incident would definitely feature in her senior thesis on corporate social responsibility. Her professors would be fascinated by the real-time application of theoretical frameworks. As they walked toward the parking garage, Dr. Richardson's phone rang. The caller ID showed Board of Directors, Emergency Session. "They want debriefing on the Nordstrom situation," she explained to Maya. "Your documentation will be crucial for our investment committee's decision." Maya smiled. Just another day changing corporate America, one live stream at a time. The Nordstrom incident had evolved from personal humiliation to corporate case study to potential industry transformation. All because a 16-year-old girl had the courage to document injustice and the support of a mother who understood that real power meant creating systemic change. 30 days later, Maya walked back into the same Nordstrom location. This time, she wasn't shopping for birthday gifts. She was conducting her first official inspection as Richardson Holdings Youth Advisory Board representative. The transformation was immediately visible. QR codes for bias reporting were prominently displayed near every entrance. Digital screens announced the store's new Inclusive Excellence commitment. Most striking, the staff had changed dramatically. The new store manager was a young Latina woman whose warm smile replaced Jessica's perpetual scowl. Jessica Whitmore had been terminated effective immediately after the board meeting. Her final performance review cited failure to uphold corporate values and creation of legal liability through discriminatory conduct. She'd since found employment at a small boutique outside the city, where her social media infamy had followed her. Derek Morrison faced a different fate. Rather than termination, Nordstrom had offered him a choice: resignation or demotion to sales associate with mandatory bias counseling. He'd chosen the counseling route, becoming an unexpected advocate for diversity training after experiencing his own perspective shift. Maya checked her tablet as she walked through the store. The BiasGuard AI system, developed by a black-owned tech company Richardson Holdings had subsequently invested in, monitored customer interactions through audio analysis and facial recognition. Staff members wore discrete badges that recorded tone, language patterns, and interaction duration. Maya, the new store manager, Carmen Rodriguez, approached with genuine enthusiasm. "How's Stanford treating you?" "Finals week," Maya replied with a smile. "But I wanted to see how implementation was progressing." Carmen's pride was evident. "Customer satisfaction scores have increased 32%. We've processed 12 bias reports through the new system, all resolved within 24 hours, and sales are up 18% since the changes." Maya made notes in her inspection report. The correlation between inclusive practices and business performance was proving her Stanford professor's theories correct. The anonymous reporting app had processed over 200 submissions across all Nordstrom locations. 87% reported positive resolution experiences. The remaining 13% had triggered immediate corporate intervention and additional training requirements. Dr. Richardson's investment committee had approved the Nordstrom acquisition 2 weeks prior. The company's swift implementation of bias reduction measures had impressed institutional investors. Environmental, social, and governance scores had improved enough to attract pension fund investments totaling $400 million. Maya walked past the counter where she'd first attempted to buy her mother's scarf. A young black girl, perhaps 14, was examining jewelry with her grandmother. The sales associate, a black woman in her 20s, was patient and helpful, treating them with the same respect shown to every customer. The contrast wasn't lost on Maya. Systemic change looked like ordinary interactions proceeding without incident. Her phone buzzed with a text from her constitutional law professor. "Harvard Business Review accepted your paper. Publication scheduled for next quarter. Congratulations on groundbreaking research." Maya's senior thesis, Real-Time Corporate Accountability, Social Media as Catalyst for Systemic Change, had analyzed the Nordstrom incident through multiple academic lenses. Her documentation had become a case study in business schools nationwide. Carmen walked Maya to the new Customer Advocacy Center, a small office visible from the main floor. Inside, Marcus, the former security guard, was completing bias sensitivity training to become the store's first customer advocate. His transformation from passive bystander to active ally illustrated the power of systems change. "Marcus volunteered for additional training," Carmen explained. "He said watching your situation made him realize he could be part of the solution." Maya interviewed Marcus for her follow-up research. "What changed your perspective?" "Seeing how calm you stayed when everyone was treating you wrong," Marcus replied. "Made me realize courage isn't about being tough. It's about doing right when it's hard." Maya documented his response in her tablet. These individual transformations were often more meaningful than policy changes. The quarterly community listening session was scheduled for next week. Local NAACP representatives, customer advocates, and Richardson Holdings executives would review progress and identify improvement opportunities. Maya would present findings from her academic research alongside practical recommendations. Dr. Richardson's broader influence was expanding. 6 other retail chains had voluntarily implemented similar bias reduction programs after reviewing Nordstrom's positive financial results. The Richardson Standard was becoming industry terminology for comprehensive anti-discrimination protocols. Maya's final inspection stop was the black-owned boutique on the 3rd floor. Business had tripled since Dr. Richardson's investment and Richardson Holdings' promotion of diverse vendors. The owner, Keisha, was planning expansion to 3 additional locations. "Your mom changed everything," Keisha said as Maya browsed the latest collection. "Not just for me, but for every black business owner in retail." Maya selected a silk scarf, finally completing her original shopping mission. This one was designed by a black artist and manufactured by a woman-owned company. The purchase represented more than personal shopping. It demonstrated how individual choices could support systemic transformation. As she left the store, Maya reflected on her mother's words from 30 days ago. "Quiet fixes don't change systems." The Nordstrom incident had proved that strategic documentation, combined with economic leverage and educational follow-through, could create lasting institutional change. Her Stanford professors had been right about the power of case studies, but they'd underestimated the impact of real-time accountability amplified by social media and backed by financial consequences. Maya's final report to Richardson Holdings documented measurable improvements across all metrics: customer satisfaction, employee retention, sales performance, and community engagement. More importantly, it demonstrated that fighting discrimination wasn't just morally necessary, it was profitable. 6 months after the incident, Maya stood at the podium of Stanford's Business School auditorium. Her presentation on corporate accountability in the digital age had drawn students, professors, and business leaders from across Silicon Valley. The slide behind her showed the viral video's impact: 50 million views across all platforms, coverage in major media outlets, and adoption of bias reduction protocols by over 300 retail companies nationwide. "Real power isn't about money or position," Maya told the audience. "It's about using privilege to lift others up and create lasting change that outlives the initial moment of injustice." Dr. Richardson watched from the front row, her pride evident. Her daughter had transformed a moment of humiliation into a movement for systemic change. The Richardson Holdings Diversity Initiative had become a Harvard Business School case study, required reading in corporate ethics courses. The financial metrics told their own story. Companies implementing the Richardson Standard reported average increases of 28% in customer satisfaction and 15% in employee retention. Bias-related legal settlements had decreased by 60% across participating retailers. Maya's research had expanded beyond retail. Her upcoming internship at the Department of Justice would focus on developing federal guidelines for corporate bias reduction. 3 universities had offered her full scholarships for law school. Harvard, Yale, and Stanford were competing for the student who had demonstrated that academic theory could drive real-world transformation. "We didn't just fight discrimination," Dr. Richardson reflected during her own keynote address to the National Association of Corporate Directors. "We built a system that prevents it. That's how you transform injustice into opportunity." The Nordstrom incident had catalyzed broader conversations about accountability in corporate America. Maya's documentation had provided a roadmap for other young activists facing similar situations. Her Stanford thesis was being translated into Spanish and Mandarin for international distribution. Social media continued amplifying their message. The original hashtag Nordstrom discrimination, had evolved into #accountability matters, used by advocates worldwide to document and challenge institutional bias. Maya's TikTok account, where she shared updates on corporate reform efforts, had gained 2 million followers. But the most meaningful impact remained personal. Letters arrived weekly from young people who had used Maya's strategies to address discrimination in their own communities. A 15-year-old in Atlanta had successfully challenged biased dress codes at her school. College students in Detroit had used similar documentation techniques to reform campus security practices. "Your story matters," Maya said, concluding her Stanford presentation. Whether it's in a store, school, workplace, or any institution that treats people unfairly, document it, share it, and demand better. Individual voices become collective power when we refuse to accept discrimination as normal. Dr. Richardson's influence had expanded internationally. Richardson Holdings now managed $12 billion in assets, with every investment decision incorporating bias assessment criteria. The company's success had proved that ethical business practices weren't just morally necessary, they were financially superior. These real-life stories demonstrate that Black stories can inspire touching stories of transformation across entire industries. Maya and Dr. Richardson's experience proves that life stories, when documented and shared strategically, become catalysts for systemic change that benefits everyone. Have you witnessed discrimination in retail, education, or workplace settings? Share your experience in the comments below. Your story could inspire the next wave of accountability and reform. Subscribe to follow more stories of individuals who refused to accept injustice and created lasting change instead. Share this video with someone who needs to see that strategic activism works. Together, we can make bias unacceptable everywhere. One documented interaction at a time. That seat's not for you. Move to the back where you belong. A Black woman in business casual freezes mid-sit as the white bus driver's voice booms through the nearly empty bus. Every head turns. She straightens, composure barely intact, as 20 pairs of eyes lock onto her face, burning with humiliation. "Excuse me?" she asks quietly. "Priority seating. Can't you read the sign?" The driver smirks. "Unless you've got some disability I can't see. Do you?" When she doesn't immediately move, his hand hovers over the radio. "Don't make me call security." She silently gathers her bag and retreats to the back, shoulders rigid. Once seated, she pulls out her phone, typing a single note. "Driver number 8294, Route 17, 8:15 a.m. Have you ever been judged before someone knew who you really were? Share your story in the comments. What the bus driver doesn't realize is that he just made the biggest mistake of his career. Vanessa Taylor adjusts her simple blazer as she waits at the Trans-City bus stop. At 42, she carries herself with the quiet confidence of someone who's fought for every inch of her success. Today, she's deliberately dressed down. Standard black slacks, sensible shoes, and minimal jewelry. The perfect disguise for her unannounced inspection. 3 months ago, Vanessa acquired the struggling Trans-City Transit Company. This morning, she reviewed the final acquisition paperwork in her home office, studying route performances and customer complaint trends. Management reports only tell half the story. She needs to experience the service firsthand, anonymously. "Time to see what my money bought," she murmurs, watching bus number 17 approach. Frank Simmons starts his shift in a foul mood. 22 years behind the wheel, and now some corporate outsider has bought the company. In the driver's break room, he vents to another veteran driver. "Heard it's some woman from the city," Frank scoffs, adjusting his uniform cap. "Probably never driven anything bigger than a Prius. Now she's going to tell us how to run buses." His colleague shrugs. "Long as the paycheck's clear. Mark my words, changes are coming. And not the good kind." Frank checks his watch. "Gotta roll. Route 17 waits for no man." When Vanessa boards, Frank barely glances at her. Just another passenger. But something in his expression shifts. A subtle tightening around the eyes, a slight downturn of his mouth. The bus security camera captures this microaggression perfectly. Vanessa notices everything as she moves through the bus. The smudged windows, the outdated route maps, the way Frank barks, "Move along," to the teenage boy fumbling for his fare. She makes mental notes of it all, her trained eye cataloging each detail. The bus is nearly empty, just a handful of passengers scattered throughout. The priority seating area at the front sits completely vacant. Vanessa slides into one of these seats, setting her modest handbag beside her. It's the perfect vantage point to observe Frank's driving habits and passenger interactions. She doesn't realize she's just stepped onto a battlefield. The seat she chose wasn't just any seat. It was about to become evidence in a case Frank didn't know was being built against him. Frank notices Vanessa in his rearview mirror. His eyes narrow at the sight of her in the priority seating area. He reaches for the microphone, his voice crackling through the bus speakers. "Ma'am, those seats are reserved," he announces, voice dripping with artificial politeness. "There's plenty of room in the back." Vanessa looks around at the empty priority section, then back to Frank. "I don't see anyone who needs these seats right now," she responds calmly. "Is there a specific policy against sitting here when they're not needed?" Frank's jaw tightens. Being questioned, especially by her, triggers something in him. He pulls the bus to the curb with a sharp jerk, unfastens his seatbelt, and stands. "Look," he says, looming over her. "I don't make the rules. Those seats aren't for regular passengers." He emphasizes each word like he's speaking to a child. "Now move to the back or get off my bus." The words "my bus" hang in the air between them. Vanessa catches them, files them away. A few passengers shift uncomfortably. An elderly white woman nods in agreement with Frank, muttering something about respect for authority. From the corner of her eye, Vanessa notices a young Latino man discreetly holding up his phone, camera lens pointed in their direction. "I understand," Vanessa says, gathering her bag. Her voice remains professional, betraying none of the calculations happening behind her eyes. "Could I have your employee ID number for feedback purposes?" Frank's face flushes. He stands taller, puffing out his chest. "Sure thing," he says with a mocking smile. "It's 8294. Been driving 22 years, nothing's going to happen." He taps his nameplate. "Frank Simmons. Go ahead and complain. I'll be here tomorrow, same as always." Vanessa nods once, committing the information to memory, even though she already knows it. She rises with dignity and moves toward the back of the bus, feeling the stares of other passengers following her. As she passes the young man with the phone, their eyes meet briefly. He gives her an almost imperceptible nod. She returns it, a silent acknowledgement of the alliance forming. As Vanessa moves to the back, the evidence of Frank's behavior is already being recorded, preserved, and time-stamped. From her seat in the back, Vanessa observes everything with laser focus. The bus stops again, and a white couple in their 30s boards, laughing about something on their phones. They slide into the exact priority seats Vanessa was forced to abandon. Frank says nothing, gives them a cursory nod as he pulls back into traffic. Vanessa's eyebrow rises slightly. She takes a mental photograph of this selective enforcement. 10 minutes later, the bus stops for an elderly white woman with a cane. Frank's entire demeanor transforms. "Ma'am, let me help you," he says, voice suddenly dripping with courtesy. He turns to the white couple. "Folks, would you mind making room? Priority seating for our senior passengers." The couple moves without complaint. Frank doesn't even glance toward Vanessa, who had already half risen to offer her seat. She slowly sits back down, invisible to him. Halfway through the route, Frank abruptly pulls over at a convenience store. "Quick break, folks," he announces. 5 minutes. Passengers exchange confused glances as Frank exits, leaving the bus idling. Through the windows, Vanessa watches him light a cigarette and chat with another driver who's pulled up alongside. 5 minutes stretches to 8, then 10. The elderly woman checks her watch anxiously. When Frank finally returns, smelling of smoke, he doesn't acknowledge the delay. Vanessa quietly takes out her phone and begins making detailed notes. Route number, times, behavior patterns. Frank catches the movement in his mirror. The bus jerks to another unscheduled stop. Frank storms down the aisle, stopping beside Vanessa's seat. "What do you think you're doing?" he demands, voice raised. "Making notes for my day," Vanessa replies evenly. "Looks like you're recording or something," Frank says, leaning closer. "That's against company policy without permission." Actually, there's no such policy at Trans-City Transit, Vanessa begins, her knowledge of her own company's rules slipping out before she can stop herself. Frank's eyes narrow. Oh, so you know company policy better than me. His voice rises, designed to create a spectacle. Been driving these routes for over 2 decades. I think I know what's allowed on my bus. Passengers stare openly now. Some look away, uncomfortable with the confrontation. Others watch with the morbid curiosity of bystanders at an accident. Either put the phone away or get off my bus. Frank's finger jabs toward the door. The humiliation is calculated, public, pointed. Every eye on the bus witnesses it. Vanessa feels their stares like physical touch against her skin. With practiced calm, the same composure that's carried her through countless boardroom battles, she slides her phone into her pocket. But not before sending a quick text message with her free hand, shielded from Frank's view by her body. The message goes to a number saved simply as Executive Office. 3 words. Immediate action required. The text Vanessa just sent wasn't to customer service. It was to the woman who would end Frank's career. Vanessa steps off the bus at the next stop, her exit a strategic retreat rather than surrender. The moment the doors close behind her, she pulls out her phone and dials a number from memory. The screen splits, Vanessa walking purposefully down the sidewalk, her casual attire now contrasting with the steel in her spine. Nicole, her executive assistant, sitting in a sleek office with the Trans-City Transit logo prominently displayed on the wall behind her. Nicole, I need everything we have on driver 8294, Frank Simmons. Vanessa's voice is controlled fury, the kind that doesn't shout but cuts. Full employment record, complaint history, performance reviews, and I want the camera footage from bus 17 this morning secured immediately, before anyone can access or alter it. Nicole responds with professional efficiency. Right away, Ms. Taylor. This sounds serious. Should I alert legal? Not yet. Vanessa pauses at a crosswalk, her gaze distant as she calculates her next moves like a chess grandmaster. This is personal. I want to handle it myself first. The light changes. Vanessa crosses, her pace never faltering. Also, arrange an emergency meeting with the board and operations manager for tomorrow morning. Don't specify what it's about. As she ends the call, a notification pings. The young man from the bus has sent her the video through the company's customer feedback portal, adding a message. What happened to you wasn't right. I record all my bus rides after what happened to my mother last year. I'm happy to be a witness if needed. The video is clear, damning. Frank's tone, his body language, his selective enforcement of rules, all captured from an angle the bus cameras wouldn't show. Thank you, Vanessa whispers to the screen, to this unexpected ally. Meanwhile, Frank continues his route, keying his radio to chat with another driver. Had to put someone in their place today, he chuckles. Some people think they can just sit wherever they want. You showed 'em, Frank, comes the crackling reply. Always do, Frank says, smugness evident even through the static. Vanessa enters a coffee shop, orders a black coffee, and opens her laptop. With a few keystrokes, she accesses Trans-City's internal systems, permissions only the owner would have. Frank's personnel file appears on her screen. Previous complaints highlighted in yellow. Multiple entries. Selective enforcement of rules. Discourteous to certain passengers. Attitude problem. All dismissed or addressed with verbal warnings. No consequences. No change. Vanessa scrolls through year after year of similar reports, protected by a system that looked the other way, enabled by management that valued tenure over conduct. She takes a slow sip of her coffee. 22 years of behaving this way, believing there would never be consequences. That ends today, she says softly, closing the laptop. The system that protected Frank for 22 years was about to meet the woman who had built her career dismantling broken systems. Frank arrives at the depot the next morning, whistling as he collects his route assignment. His supervisor, Thomas, stands by the dispatch desk, shoulders tense. When he spots Frank, he straightens up, forcing a neutral expression. "Frank, got a minute?" Thomas gestures to a private corner. "Sure thing, boss." Frank follows, still whistling. "Something wrong with the route today?" Thomas shifts his weight. "There's been a complaint about your behavior yesterday." Frank laughs, dismissive. "Another one? So what?" He adjusts his uniform cap. "People complain when they don't get their way. What was it this time? The lady who wouldn't move from priority seating?" "Actually, yes." Thomas clears his throat. "And apparently there's video. Management wants to see you before your shift starts." Frank's whistling stops abruptly. "Video? That's against policy. She can't record on my bus without permission." "That's actually not in our policy, Frank," Thomas says carefully, consulting a company handbook. "And the bus cameras also captured the incident." Frank's face reddens. "Look, they can watch whatever they want. I was doing my job." He taps his chest with his thumb. "I've been here longer than most of the management. Nothing's going to happen. I know how to handle difficult passengers." Thomas just nods, clearly uncomfortable with the entire conversation. "Report to Bill's office at 8:30. Across the depot, in the management office, middle manager Bill Powell reviews the complaint on his computer. His expression suggests inconvenience rather than concern. "Just give him a warning," Bill tells his assistant. "We're short on drivers as it is." The assistant, a younger woman who's only been with the company 6 months, frowns. "I don't know, Bill. This seems pretty cut and dry discrimination. And have you seen how many previous complaints are in his file?" Bill waves his hand dismissively. It's his word against hers. Just another passenger who doesn't understand how things work. "The video is pretty clear." "Look," Bill cuts her off. "Frank's been here forever. He knows the routes better than anyone. Write up the warning, I'll have him sign it, and we can all move on with our day." The assistant reluctantly begins typing the minimal disciplinary form. Bill's phone rings. He glances at the caller ID display. "V. Taylor, CEO." As Bill reaches for the phone, he has no idea that the passenger Frank humiliated and the name on his caller ID are one and the same. Vanessa sits in her home office, the wall behind her lined with transportation industry awards and her MBA diploma from Wharton. Spread before her is the evidence against Frank, the passenger video playing silently on one screen, bus camera footage on another, his personnel file open on her tablet. She's methodical, highlighting patterns, connecting dots. This isn't her first time building a case, but it's certainly the most personal. She picks up her phone and dials Bill Powell's direct line. "This is Bill," he answers, his tone professionally bland. "Mr. Powell, this is Vanessa Taylor." There's a pause. "Ms. Taylor, the CEO. We weren't expecting. I've received disturbing evidence of discriminatory conduct by one of your drivers." Vanessa cuts in, her voice cool and measured. "Frank Simmons, employee number 8294. Bill's casual dismissiveness evaporates. "Yes, I was just reviewing that incident. I'm sure it's just a misunderstanding. Frank's been with us for decades." "Longevity doesn't excuse bigotry, Mr. Powell." Each word precise, a surgeon's scalpel. "I'll be addressing this personally at tomorrow's emergency board meeting. I expect Frank Simmons and yourself to be present." She pauses deliberately. "Don't inform him who I am yet. I want to see his unfiltered behavior." "Of course, Ms. Taylor," Bill stammers. "I'll make sure he's there." In the driver's break room, Frank holds court, coffee cup in hand. 4 other drivers listen as he recounts his version of yesterday's events. "So, this lady thinks she can just sit wherever she wants," Frank says, gesturing expansively. "When I tell her to move, she starts taking notes like she's gonna report me or something." He takes a victorious sip of coffee. "Management called me in, but these corporate types never follow through. They need us more than we need them." A younger driver, only 3 years on the job, looks concerned. "I heard the new owner doesn't mess around, Frank. Maybe you should take this seriously." Frank dismisses this with a laugh. "Some rich lady from the city who's never driven a bus in her life? What's she going to do? Fire her most experienced driver over one passenger complaint? The break room falls quiet as drivers exchange glances. Frank doesn't notice, too busy enjoying his perceived immunity. The rich lady from the city was about to show Frank exactly what she could do. And it would start by revealing who that passenger really was. The boardroom on the top floor of Trans-City Transit headquarters gleams with recent renovations. Vanessa's first act as owner was updating the neglected executive level. Modern light fixtures cast a professional glow over the polished conference table where several executives sit in silent anticipation. Frank arrives 15 minutes early, dressed in his regular uniform, no special effort made for the occasion. He tugs at his collar, uncomfortable in this rarefied air but masking it with bravado. "Place looks different," he mutters to Bill Powell, who escorts him in. "Lot of money spent on fancy lights while the buses fall apart." Bill attempts to coach him one last time. "Just show some remorse, Frank. Say you had a bad day, you'll do better. That's all they want to hear." Frank scoffs. "I'll just explain how these priority seats work. Management always backs us up on safety protocols." They take their seats. Frank finally notices the large screen at the front of the room, currently displaying frozen images from two videos, the bus security footage and the passenger recording side by side. His smile falters slightly. The company's HR director, a composed woman in her 50s, opens a folder. "Mr. Simmons, we're addressing a serious complaint about discriminatory behavior toward a passenger yesterday morning on Route 17. Frank interrupts, leaning forward. "Look, I was just enforcing the priority seating policy. If people would just follow the rules—" "The bus was nearly empty, Mr. Simmons," the HR director cuts him off, her tone professional but firm. "And our policy explicitly states priority seating is only restricted when needed by elderly or disabled passengers." Frank's posture stiffens. "Listen, I've been driving longer than most of you have been working here. I know how to handle my bus." "Your bus?" The HR director raises an eyebrow. "The company's bus," Frank corrects himself, but his tone remains defiant. "Point is, you weren't there. You're watching a few minutes of video and making judgments about a situation you don't understand." The tension in the room thickens. Frank continues digging himself deeper, unaware of who's about to enter. "I've got a perfect driving record. Ask anyone. 22 years, not a single accident. How many drivers can say that? You want to come after me for telling some passenger to follow the rules? Good luck with that." The boardroom door opens. Frank's words die in his throat as he comes face to face with the difficult passenger he humiliated, now wearing a tailored executive suit and carrying the CEO's portfolio. A hush falls over the boardroom as Vanessa enters. Gone is the casual business attire from yesterday, replaced by a perfectly tailored charcoal suit, understated gold jewelry, and an air of absolute authority. Every eye follows her as she walks to the head of the table, her heels clicking purposefully against the hardwood floor. Frank's expression transforms in slow motion. Confusion, then recognition, then dawning horror as the pieces click into place. His mouth opens slightly, but no words emerge. "Good morning, everyone," Vanessa begins, her voice calm and measured. "For those who haven't met me in person yet, I'm Vanessa Taylor, CEO and owner of Trans-City Transit." She places her executive portfolio, embossed with the company logo and her title, on the table, and turns her gaze directly to Frank. "And yesterday, Mr. Simmons, I was the passenger you ordered to the back of the bus." Frank's face drains of color. You didn't identify yourself." "Should I have needed to?" Vanessa asks, raising one eyebrow. The question hangs in the air, heavy with implication. Does Trans-City Transit have different standards of treatment for passengers based on who they are or how they look? She doesn't wait for his answer. With a small remote, she activates the presentation screen. The videos begin playing side by side, the official bus footage and the passenger recording. Frank's voice fills the room. "That seat's not for you. Move to the back where you belong." "This incident occurred at 8:17 yesterday morning," Vanessa narrates as the videos play. Approximately 12 minutes later, a white couple boarded and sat in those exact seats. They weren't asked to move. The footage confirms her words. At 8:36, when an elderly passenger boarded, Mr. Simmons instructed the white couple to make room, but ignored my offer to give up my seat. She moves through the evidence methodically. Frank's unscheduled break that delayed passengers, his confrontation when he noticed Vanessa taking notes, his blatant lie about company recording policies. "This isn't about who I am, Mr. Simmons," Vanessa continues, her voice level but resolute. "It's about how you treat people you perceive as having no power." She meets his eyes across the table. "The fact that I happen to be the owner of this company doesn't make your behavior more or less acceptable. It just means I'm in a position to ensure there are consequences." Frank finds his voice, desperation edging in. "Ms. Taylor, with all due respect, I was just trying to enforce the priority seating policy." "Were you?" Vanessa interrupts, tapping her tablet. "Because our policy states, and I quote, 'Priority seating is reserved for elderly and disabled passengers when such passengers are present. It doesn't authorize drivers to prevent other passengers from using those seats when they're empty.'" She swipes to a new document on the screen. "Your personnel file shows 7 previous complaints about selectively enforcing rules based on passengers' appearance. All dismissed or addressed with verbal warnings." Frank attempts another defense. "Different situations, different contexts, different passengers," Vanessa finishes for him. "Different treatment." Bill Powell, sensing which way the wind is blowing, attempts to distance himself from the situation. "Ms. Taylor, I assure you if I'd known the severity—" Vanessa cuts him off with a raised hand. "That's precisely the problem, Mr. Powell. This behavior should be addressed with the same seriousness regardless of who the passenger is or whether the CEO is watching. The fact that Mr. Simmons has multiple similar complaints in his file that were never properly addressed points to a systemic failure of management." The board members shift uncomfortably as Vanessa makes it clear this isn't just about Frank. It's about a culture that permitted his behavior. She outlines immediate steps: Frank's suspension pending formal review, an independent audit of complaint procedures, and mandatory anti-bias training for all staff, starting with management. Frank, now desperate, tries one last angle. "You can't just come in here and change everything overnight. You don't know the first thing about running buses." Vanessa raises an eyebrow. "Actually, Mr. Simmons, before I acquired this company, I spent 15 years in public transportation management, including 5 years driving buses to put myself through business school." She lets that sink in. "Any other assumptions you'd like to make about me?" Frank finally falls silent, the ground crumbling beneath his feet. Vanessa turns to address the entire room, her gaze sweeping over every face. "This ends today, not just for Mr. Simmons, but for the entire culture that made him think his behavior was acceptable." As the weight of consequence settles over the room, no one notices the silent message appearing on Vanessa's phone. "Phase 2, ready when you are." Within 48 hours of the boardroom confrontation, Trans-City Transit undergoes a seismic shift. Vanessa doesn't waste time on half measures. She works late into the night with the legal team, dissecting and rebuilding the company's complaint system from the ground up. "These policies have no teeth," she tells the head of legal, sliding aside a folder of previous harassment guidelines. "They create the illusion of accountability without actually requiring it. The new system they design eliminates loopholes and removes subjective judgment from the equation. Clear violations receive clear consequences. Every complaint now goes through an independent review committee that includes representatives from management, union, and, most radically, the passenger community." Frank's formal disciplinary hearing is scheduled for the following week. In the meantime, he finds himself suspended without pay, his company ID deactivated. The news spreads quickly through driver circles. Some express sympathy, but most keep their distance, sensing the changing winds. "They can't do this to me," Frank insists to a longtime colleague over beers at a bar far from the depot. 22 years of service, and they're treating me like some rookie who crashed a bus." "Times are changing, Frank," his friend responds, uncomfortable. Maybe you should just apologize, take the sensitivity training. Apologize for what? Doing my job? Frank slams down his beer. I'm going to fight this. The union will back me up. But when Frank approaches his union representative, he finds no champion there. I've reviewed the videos, Frank, the rep says gravely. This isn't a gray area. The union's job is to ensure fair treatment and due process, not to defend clear violations of both company policy and basic human decency. So you're abandoning me too? Frank's voice rises. After all the dues I've paid? You'll get a fair hearing, the rep assures him. That's what we can guarantee. But I strongly advise you to show remorse and a willingness to change. That's your best path forward. Frank leaves the union office feeling betrayed. He doesn't recognize the company anymore. The rules that once seemed bendable to his will now stand rigid against him. Meanwhile, Bill Powell and several middle managers face their own reckonings. During a tense meeting with Vanessa, Bill attempts to defend his years of minimal action on complaints. We have to balance driver retention with passenger concerns, he argues. In this industry, you can't just replace experienced drivers over every little complaint. Discrimination isn't a little complaint, Mr. Powell, Vanessa replies, and characterizing it as such is exactly why we're here. She slides a folder across the desk to him. You have two options. Accept reassignment to route planning with a 6-month probationary period, or tender your resignation. Similar conversations play out across middle management. Some accept reassignment, others choose to leave. The message becomes clear throughout the organization. Enabling discrimination through inaction carries consequences just as tangible as the discrimination itself. The Transit Workers Union initially approaches these changes with caution. Union President Darrell Washington requests an emergency meeting with Vanessa, concerned about a potential purge of long-time employees. My members are worried, he explains in Vanessa's office. They need to know their rights will be protected. I respect workers' rights, Mr. Washington, Vanessa responds. What I don't respect is using those rights as a shield for bigotry. There's nothing in your contract that protects discriminatory behavior, is there? Washington concedes the point. No, but there are concerns about subjective interpretations. Which is why we're installing cameras in every bus and implementing clear, objective standards, Vanessa counters. Drivers who treat all passengers with respect have nothing to worry about. By the meeting's end, they reach an understanding. The union will work with management to revise contracts, explicitly addressing discriminatory behavior while strengthening protections for due process. This balance, accountability with fairness, becomes the foundation for the company's transformation. Vanessa personally meets with the young passenger who recorded the original video. His name is Antonio Velez, a law student who started recording his transit experiences after his mother faced similar discrimination. Your video was crucial evidence, Mr. Velez, Vanessa tells him. I'd like to offer you a position on our newly formed Passenger Advisory Board. We need perspectives like yours to truly understand how our service impacts the community. Antonio accepts, becoming one of 12 diverse community members chosen to provide direct feedback on service quality and treatment. The board meets monthly, with executives required to attend and address concerns directly. News of TransCity's transformation spreads beyond the company's boundaries. Transportation industry publications pick up the story. Some companies dismiss it as excessive corporate interference. Others, sensing the changing social landscape, begin quietly reviewing their own policies. 3 weeks into the changes, Vanessa addresses all employees in a company-wide meeting held in the depot's largest maintenance bay. Buses are moved aside to make room for chairs. Drivers, mechanics, office staff, and management all gather together. A first in the company's history. This isn't about punishment, Vanessa states clearly, her voice carrying through the cavernous space without a microphone. It's about building a company where everyone, employees and passengers alike, is treated with dignity. She paces slowly across the makeshift stage. The standards we're implementing aren't extraordinary. They're the bare minimum of human decency. She outlines new initiatives. anonymous reporting systems for employees who witness misconduct, regular culture audits to identify problem areas before they escalate, recognition programs for employees who exemplify inclusive service, and career advancement opportunities specifically designed to diversify management. Some of you may be thinking this will all blow over, she acknowledges, meeting eyes across the room, that if you wait long enough, things will go back to normal. Let me be clear. This is the new normal. You can embrace it and grow with this company, or you can find employment elsewhere. The choice is yours, but the direction of Trans-City Transit is not changing. After the meeting, applications for the new Diversity Advancement Program exceed available spots 3-1. Employees who initially resisted the changes begin to see opportunities rather than threats. The depot atmosphere gradually shifts from tension to cautious optimism. Through it all, Frank remains suspended, awaiting his hearing. He watches from the outside as the company he thought he knew transforms into something unrecognizable to him. His attempts to rally support among longtime colleagues yield diminishing returns as they adapt to the new reality. On the morning of his hearing, Frank receives the official notice of termination. The hearing will proceed as scheduled, but its purpose has changed. Not to determine if he will be terminated, but to document the reasons for the record and to give him an opportunity to respond. As Vanessa reviews the final termination paperwork in her office, her assistant brings in an unexpected update. 3 other local transit companies have contacted Trans-City requesting information about their new policies. The ripple effect has begun. "Should I send them the guidelines?" the assistant asks. Vanessa considers this, then nods. "Send everything. The policies, the training materials, the community board structure. This shouldn't be proprietary. It should be standard." She turns to look out her office window at the fleet of buses below, each one carrying people whose daily experiences matter. The company she purchased as a business investment has become something more, a vehicle for necessary change. As Frank holds his termination notice with trembling hands, he still doesn't understand that he isn't just losing a job. He's witnessing the end of an era that should have ended long ago. Frank arrives at his hearing with the desperate confidence of a drowning man grasping at straws. He's traded his uniform for an ill-fitting suit, the same one he wore to his sister's wedding 3 years ago. Beside him sits Alvin Bennett, an attorney he could barely afford, specializing in employment disputes. The hearing committee waits in the renovated conference room. A diverse panel including HR, a union representative, operations, and, most unsettling to Frank, Antonio Velez from the new Passenger Advisory Board. No friendly faces, no old guard allies. "This is just a formality," Bennett whispers to Frank. "But we'll present your case as a misunderstanding blown out of proportion. 22 years of service has to count for something." Frank nods, clinging to this thread of hope. The hearing proceeds with clinical efficiency. The evidence against Frank plays again on the screen. The confrontation, his selective enforcement, his unprofessional conduct, all captured from multiple angles. His personnel file appears next, 27 similar complaints over his career, all either dismissed or addressed with minimal consequences. Bennett attempts to frame the incident as isolated, an anomaly in an otherwise stellar career. "Mr. Simmons has transported thousands of passengers safely over 2 decades, he argues. One heated interaction shouldn't erase that record. The committee listens politely but remains unmoved. Their questions probe not just the incident with Vanessa, but the pattern it represents. Vanessa herself enters midway through, taking a seat at the side of the room rather than at the committee table, present as a witness, not a decision-maker. When called to testify, she recounts her experience factually, without embellishment. "This isn't about one incident," she concludes. "Mr. Simmons's personnel file shows 27 complaints of similar behavior over his career, all either dismissed or addressed with minimal consequences. That pattern indicates this wasn't an anomaly. It was standard practice." Frank listens, his face reddening with each word. Something inside him finally snaps. "Everyone does it!" he bursts out, his lawyer's restraining hand ignored. "You're singling me out because now suddenly it's all about being woke." The room falls silent. His outburst hangs in the air, damning in its implications. Bennett winces. "My client is understandably emotional." "Your client just confirmed the problem," the HR director observes quietly. "The decision is unanimous. Termination for cause, with the incident fully documented. Frank's transportation license won't be revoked. That's not within the company's power. But the detailed record will follow him to any future employer in the industry." The aftermath hits Frank like a slow-motion collision. His first job application is rejected within hours. Then the second. And the third. His phone calls go unreturned. Former colleagues stop answering his texts. The industry that once seemed to have an unshakable place for him now treats him like a contagion. 6 months later, Frank stands in the parking lot of the Metropolitan Transportation Conference, now working as an attendant, the only job he could find even tangentially related to his former career. He wears a different uniform now, polyester pants and a neon vest, directing cars for minimum wage plus tips. Through the convention center's glass doors, he spots a familiar figure, Vanessa Taylor, surrounded by transportation executives, heading toward the main stage. She's the keynote speaker, her company's transformation the talk of the industry. For a moment, their eyes meet across the distance. No words are exchanged, no acknowledgement given, just the stark reality of their reversed positions, her ascending, him fallen, reflected in that brief, electric contact. Frank returns to directing traffic, the laminated badge on his chest, a far cry from the Trans-City ID he once wore with pride. Each luxury car he waves through contains someone heading to hear Vanessa speak about the future of inclusive transportation services. The irony isn't lost on him. But understanding comes too late. As Frank watches Vanessa take the stage to thunderous applause, he finally begins to understand that the world he took for granted, where people like him could act with impunity, is disappearing, one company at a time. 1 year after the incident that catalyzed Trans-City Transit's transformation, the company bears little resemblance to its former self. Employee satisfaction scores have risen from a dismal 42% to an impressive 87%. Passenger complaints have decreased by 65%, while commendations have tripled. Most tellingly, applications for employment have surged, particularly among women and people of color who previously avoided the industry. Vanessa stands at the podium of the National Transportation Association's annual conference, slides displaying these metrics behind her. The audience, once skeptical of her radical approach, now leans forward, taking notes. "The transformation wasn't quick or easy," she acknowledges, her voice carrying through the packed auditorium. "We faced resistance, skepticism, and backsliding that required constant vigilance. Change never follows a straight line." She clicks to the next slide, a quote from a driver who initially opposed the reforms but now leads one of the company's mentorship programs. "The key was demonstrating that accountability and respect aren't just moral imperatives, they're good business. Our operational efficiency improved 23% once we addressed the cultural issues undermining trust between management, drivers, and passengers." In the front row, executives from competing transit companies exchange glances. 3 have already implemented similar reforms. Others are drafting plans, recognizing the shifting landscape. Industry publications that once relegated diversity issues to special annual editions now feature regular columns analyzing the business impact of inclusive practices. Trans-City's journey from troubled company to industry leader appears in case studies at transportation management programs across the country. Antonio Velez, now in his final year of law school and head of the Passenger Advisory Board, joins Vanessa at community forums throughout the city. Together, they speak about the importance of accountability and the courage to speak up. "The video I recorded wasn't about getting someone fired," Antonio tells a community center audience. "It was about making visible what many people experience daily but can't prove. Visibility is the first step toward change." The ripple effects spread beyond Trans City. A montage of progress flashes across television screens and social media. Diverse new hires training as drivers, management teams that finally reflect the communities they serve, passengers of all backgrounds being treated with the same baseline respect, once reserved for those with perceived status or power. At a private ceremony covered by Transportation Industry Press, Vanessa establishes the William Taylor Advancement Scholarship for minorities entering transportation management. She dedicates it to her grandfather, a skilled bus driver who was denied promotion to dispatcher in the 1960s despite his qualifications. My grandfather never saw the changes we're implementing today, she tells the small gathering, her usual professional composure softening slightly. But he taught me that transportation isn't just about moving people physically, it's about moving society forward. Every seat on every bus belongs to everyone. Every career path in this industry should be equally accessible. The scholarship's first recipients, 5 promising students from backgrounds traditionally underrepresented in management, stand nearby, embodying the future Vanessa envisions. As cameras flash, capturing the moment for industry publications, Vanessa's phone buzzes with a notification. Trans City has just been named Transportation Company of the Year, the first time a mid-sized regional company has received the honor traditionally reserved for national giants. The changes at Trans City were impressive, but for Vanessa, the most meaningful test was yet to come, a simple bus ride that would bring her journey full circle. 18 months after that fateful morning on bus number 17, Vanessa stands at a Trans City bus stop in the early morning light. She wears simple slacks and a blouse, not as an undercover boss this time, but simply as herself, a woman with a downtown meeting who prefers public transit to gridlocked traffic. Bus number 42 pulls up precisely on schedule, its electric motor humming quietly. The doors slide open to reveal a young woman of South Asian descent behind the wheel. Her nameplate reads, S. Patel. "Good morning." The driver greets Vanessa with the same warm professionalism she offers every boarding passenger. There's no recognition in her eyes, just the genuine welcome that's now standard across the fleet. Vanessa returns the greeting and moves through the bus. It's clean, well-maintained. The route maps are updated. The information screens display clear multilingual instructions, small details that speak volumes. She slides into an empty seat in the priority section, setting her bag beside her. No one questions her right to sit there. The atmosphere is different now. Passengers of various backgrounds chat casually or focus on their phones, comfortable in the shared space. 3 stops later, an elderly man with a walker boards slowly. Without prompting or fanfare, Vanessa rises and offers her seat. The simple human courtesy passes without drama as it should. No power plays, no performance, just one person being considerate of another's needs. "Thank you," the man says with a nod. "Of course," Vanessa replies. Driver Patel waits patiently until the man is settled before continuing the route. This brief delay triggers no complaints from other passengers. The culture of mutual respect has gradually become the new normal. When Vanessa's stop approaches, she moves toward the exit. As she passes the driver, they exchange a simple smile, a moment between 2 people with no awareness of their connection in the company hierarchy. It's in this anonymous, ordinary interaction that Vanessa finds the deepest satisfaction, proof that the changes have taken root beyond her personal presence or authority. The bus pulls away as Vanessa stands on the sidewalk watching it merge into traffic. Other Trans City buses pass in the opposite direction, their diverse drivers focused on their routes, their passengers secure in the expectation of being treated with basic dignity. True change isn't measured by what happens when everyone knows who's watching, Vanessa thinks, resuming her walk toward her meeting. It's measured by what happens when no one thinks anyone is watching at all. That evening, Vanessa returns to her office after a day of meetings. She pauses before a framed photograph on her credenza, her grandfather in his bus driver's uniform, standing proudly beside his vehicle in 1962. His eyes hold dreams deferred but not abandoned. Beside the photo sits a plaque with Trans City's new motto, "Every seat is for everyone." Every passenger deserves respect. She touches the frame gently, a private moment of connection across generations. On her desk, a report awaits her attention. 3 more transit companies in neighboring states have adopted Trans-Cities policies verbatim. The transformation is spreading, depot by depot, route by route. Outside her window, the company's buses return to the yard as the evening shift ends. Drivers chat amicably as they clock out, a diverse group unified by their shared profession rather than divided by old hierarchies. Tomorrow, they'll carry thousands of passengers safely to their destinations, each interaction an opportunity to reinforce the new culture or to slide back into old patterns. But Vanessa isn't worried anymore. The company has reached the tipping point where doing the right thing has become easier than maintaining the old wrongs. The system now sustains itself. Change, once begun, has its own momentum. If this story resonated with you, don't let it end here. Subscribe to Beat Stories for weekly doses of real-world justice that will change how you see the world around you. We share the stories that mainstream media won't. Stories of power revealed, assumptions shattered, and justice served. Hit that subscribe button now and turn on notifications so you never miss a new Beat story. Each like and share helps us reach more people who need to hear these powerful accounts.
What happened today isn't just a story. It's a reminder. Silence protects systems, but courage rewrites them. At Beat Stories, we don't just watch change, we document it. Subscribe for more real stories that challenge power and amplify truth.